Good morning and welcome to our live talk program. This is Lloyd Grubb here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our live talk program covering church related matters on this Tuesday as we look at this topic: sinners selling their lifestyle as if it is successful. Sinners selling their lifestyle as if it is successful. So, welcome again, top of morning to you. Thanks for joining me as we do our live talk program from Monday through Friday every week. Let us pray. Our Father who art in heaven, I thank you, dear Lord, for your love towards us and your continued guidance in our lives. Pray that you may be with us as we study and bless my mind and those that are listening, that truly we may walk in the light of thy countenance. This is my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. So again, looking at this topic, sinners selling their lifestyle as if it is successful. And continuing my theme here, which is my saints, those that have made a covenant, those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice. And so this is what we're looking at here, those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice. And part of what we're looking at here is in Psalm chapter 50, verse 4 and 5, Psalms 50, verse 4 and 5, and then 22 and 23. And it says here, he shall call to the heavens from above and to the earth that he may judge his people. Gather my saints together unto me, those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice. Now consider this, ye that forget God, lest I tear you in pieces, and there be none to deliver. Whoso offered praise glorified me, and to him that ordered his conversation aright, I will show the salvation of God, and I will show my salvation. So when we live in life, right, there's this concept that is promoted in society that you can live a life without limits. And for me, I take that as a life without governance, a life without guidance or any guiding principle. And this life does not work. So a life without limits, a life without governance, a life without guiding principles does not work. It does not work on a personal level. It does not work on any type of societal level, at a national, international level. There has to be guiding principles, there have to be governance, and there have to be limits. So it is with even equipment. Everything that has to have some governance or limits, else it will burn out. And you see people saying that they burn out in various different professions, even as we're dealing with religion here today. Even in a religious context, people get burned out because you can't go always. You have to take time for rest. That's just how the body works. That's how life works. There are seasons to life. There's weekend. The end of the week has to come to an end. You can't just keep going. But a life without limits means that you live in the best life and you see the end result. And as I say, it's one thing for me to read history when I was younger and read about the lifestyle of those that live without limits, governance, or guiding principles and come to certain conclusion. It's a total different thing now to live for the length of time that I've lived and to watch so many people burn out, flame out, and literally buried right now, or struggling with some serious diseases that they inflicted upon themselves because they live life without limits. So we don't want to live like this. And so we want to take the examples of those that are our contemporary, those that are living with us right now, and they're living life without limits. And we want to take their examples and then those that have gone before us, and we guide ourselves along in how to do life. And so life cannot go without limits. And so when we commit to the Lord, we commit by a covenant, and that covenant is marked by sacrifice. There's something that we're giving up to serve the Lord, but we can't serve the Lord without any limits, any governance, or any guiding principles. So I want to look at this with you as a devotional thought, a meditational thought, just to share, to encourage you to stay in the straight and narrow and to walk in the way of the Lord. It is the blessed. You can serve the Lord, and you can serve the Lord with a understanding heart. You can serve the Lord in a blessed way. The Lord can be served, and it is not tedious or terrible to do, as some people would say. It's because they have no control over themselves. They have no guiding principles. So in Genesis chapter 39, verse 7 and 8, I'll start about where I left yesterday. And just want to do a little bit on this before I move on. So where I left off yesterday when I was closing, I was talking about Joseph and the story of Joseph. Now, what we know with the story of Joseph is that Joseph was a person that lived with principle, and his work, anyhow, entailed that required of him to manage his master's Potiphar's affair with principle, and that principle made him very good at what he does, which is to manage the household. He'll be like a household manager of a person that is very significant, have a lot of resources, and those principles will guide him. And then, up on top of that, the Lord blessed Potiphar. In this life, one thing you can know is that when you have guiding principles, this world will open doors for you. Doors will be open for you by God's principle, by God's merit and blessings. Because good help is hard to find. And a lot of time, it's not good help is hard to find. It's people that have guiding principles, people that has limits in their life, and people that work with principle in general, laws, rules, and they understand the importance of following certain laws and rules. Good help is not so much hard to find. It's so much that says you're really trying to find somebody that's going to show up, that's going to execute and understand what they're doing and execute it well and honest with you and stuff like that. That's really what's hard to find. But that's really just defining what good help is. So we see here in Genesis chapter 39, verse 7, it says, "And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast her eye upon Joseph and said, 'Lie with me.' And he says, 'I can't do this.'" In verse 8. Joseph refused. Now, what happened there? Joseph refused, all right? And what it is, he's dealing now with the issue of principle. And the end result is that he suffered some loss, which you'll know in this life. When you live by a principle, you will and do suffer loss, because you deal with unprincipled people that want you to do certain things that are corrupt, that will backfire in the long run. And this is why life without limits, a life that is sold as successful, does not work, because the lifestyle of certain people is just destructive. So you don't want to live like this. So here Joseph laid down the law, so to speak, that he was living by, the guiding principles that he was living by. And that worked out well for him. That was good for Potiphar to have somebody like that. His wife didn't have no principle, or she probably had, but she lost it when she looked at Joseph. He was doing good for himself. He was excelling. Not just he looked physically good as she thought, but he was excelling in all aspect of life. And so he had some good attributes that was very attractive, and she cast high upon him. So in this life, you're gonna come upon that most of society doesn't live by principles. But remember, our foundational text is that call my saints, those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice, those who understand what this life is all about, and that you always have to sacrifice. You don't sacrifice principle, you sacrifice. And sometimes when you do like Joseph, you could end up losing your job, you could end up losing relationships because there's all these undisciplined people that always want to do stuff that they think in the interim is going to benefit them, but long term it's not going to benefit them. Just think about it. All fornication and adulterous relationship has no forward. There's no future. It's just something in the moment. But what's the future plan? You know what I mean? It's like sexuality has to be in marriage, where there's a plan and a future, a covenant, a commitment by sacrifice. So all relationships, whatever you're doing, a job, anything you're doing, there's always going to be something you have to give up, and it's going to cost. But long term, it works. So if you're in a relationship, and a sexual relationship, and it's come with a covenant, a commitment, it's long term. But with something like this, what she was offering was not long term. It's not going nowhere. It's a short term plan. So when we talk about a secular, like me now, in my thinking here, when I talk about sinners selling their lifestyle as very successful, or successful lifestyle, normally we find in secular society, when we talk about today, we call them, they call them influencers and stuff like that, and just people who are normally excelling in certain areas of life. They'll sell a certain life. They sell their lifestyle as being successful. So you sell your soul. You do how many recording artists? It's just the amount of them. Even Christian recording artists get beat out of their contract. Talk about a commitment or a covenant that has nothing to do with anything but to take people's artistry when they're young, and then rob them of their money, and they don't really understand what's going on. And the lawyers never give them this concept to read the fine print, I guess. But I guess they want to get in so bad that they give up money in order to make become famous, and then when their fame die out, they realize they didn't have the money, they got robbed. That's a side note to what I'm talking about. So when we normally think about people who sell they're the real people that lives without limits, and they're living the best life. They're living the life of 2 3 men. Is normally artists. I remember this artist. He say he's lived the life of, I guess, 10 men or 100 men, and he now looks like he's. I think he's still in his 30s and look like he's literally lived the life of 100 men. It looks look terrible, and like his brain is gone, and he's just 30 something. This is amazing. So you see bodybuilders, some of these guys that are just like really Hulk, make Hulk look small sometimes. 200 and something plus, close to 300 and something pounds, and just humongous. Just a fascinating thing what drugs, growth hormone and steroids can do. And you look at them, you'll be like, yeah, it's fascinating to look at, because just to see somebody can get to that size, and how much of them die in their 30s, 40s. 40s would be a grandfather. A few of them make it out of 40s into like 50s and probably 60s. Just the amount of drugs cause the heart to elevate, to get larger, and just the heart actually after a while give out. And there's some that have died in their 20s. They just destroy their body. But you see, that's a life without limit. That's a life where you just put anything in your body. It's the same thing with the people who do cocaine. So many people do cocaine, they die in their 20s and 30s. They don't live long. Some live long, but they just live long on their life. The body's just wrecked. Life without governing principles, life without limit, life with no principle is just a lot of suffering and beat down until the person dies. So whatever drug, whether it be for steroids to do bodybuilding or just drugs for recreational purpose, the end result is a lot of damage to the system. Like I always say, marijuana is a downer, and it subdue or subside or pull down the central nervous system. Sooner or later, anything to do with nervous impulse will be damaged. But people say, well, I can do whatever I want to do any old time. And that's what the song says. And the end result of that is you look at people like that, they look like, as I say, they're getting ready for Halloween all year long. It's just terrible. They just look like scarecrow. So notice here, martial artists, these people, I say that because there's a group of people who, I don't know if it's always martial, but these artists that thump each other and kick each other in the head. And that's the primary body shots. And you say, man, how much, I don't know if you've ever fallen and hit your head or hit your stomach or face, I don't know, back, whatever. You fall forward, backward. These people are taking these type of concussions daily. And then you see later on, some of them, they're shaking or they talk. Recently, I've seen some interviews with some of these boxers, different boxers. And when they're talking, you realize they're in the conversation, but not fully. It's like, I guess, every question they have to kind of really process it, because all that thump in the head and kick in the head that the mixed martial artist gets, it's just brutal. But it's the big life. It's a big life they're going for, and you realize they're not fully there, and they say that's the good life. But you don't make people sell you this type of lifestyle. Just going through some of this with you here before I go to my main point. This type of lifestyle is not good. One of the most dangerous and evil people in our society is evolutionary scientists. These people tell us that the world is 100 and something million, billion years. It gets wild and crazy in their mind. I think these people should work for Hollywood as fiction writers. And they tell secular society that they evolve and that they're the end product of evolution. I mean, this is just the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. You're walking around society, when you go to next time to like the stores like Walmart and stuff like that, and Target and wherever you go to a store, just look around and look at the people around you and say, are these people the end product of evolution? They're evolving and getting better. This is so ridiculous. It's ridiculous that it makes you want to cry. But these people and their disciples are some of the most weirdest people in our society. And they're telling you that their life is the best because they've evolved to eat all kind of drugs and chemicals and genetically engineered vaccine, and they eat these people eat in our society. They eat drugs like it's going on. I don't want to say drugs, I mean pharmaceutical drugs. They eat it because they think the scientist is the next level of evolution. And this lifestyle doesn't work. And but they sell themselves that this lifestyle work. This get up every day, eat drugs and eat white flour, white sugar, processed food, fast food, and you look at them, you say, I don't see the evolution, but they're convinced in their mind that they're evolving and that they're at the next level, and they're about to get beamed up. I don't know where. Warmongers, look at the warmongers in our society and look at the warmongers abroad. This lifestyle does not work. They say they're the baddest, whatever, and appear dead bodies. Backsliders, you've known these people, claim that they follow in Jesus and they go backwards, or backbiters. And then hypocrites. Hypocrites are the worst because they're the actors. They like to act. Most hypocrites to me are what I've come upon. They're very depressed. The hypocritical lifestyle does not work. You know, people acting. And what I mean by that is that I should have put in bracket there, chameleons are people in camouflage. They go around life and you never know who they are. When they're amongst one group of people, they're the best. They belong to that group. When they go to another group of people, they belong to that group. They don't know who they are. And these people it leads out to depression and suicide and stuff like that. This is life without principle. To me, if you're a principled person, you can't be a chameleon or a camouflage person or a hypocrite. You can't blend in to whatever. You know, I can't blend in everywhere because just look at what I just said to you here. I can't blend in. Just that list that I have in front of me tell you that I can't blend in. How am I going to blend in? Because if you live by principle and you say, I don't believe in that, hypocrites like, oh, well, you can't judge. Like, really? People taking kicks to the head, that's going to turn out good. Yeah, I have a principle on that. I don't believe that's going to work. People get up every day and take drugs. Oh, that's your life. You can't live it. That ain't going to work. They can live it all right. It's a free country, as they say, but it doesn't work. But hypocrites now blend in and they approve everything and they don't say you don't judge. God don't know the heart of the person. Well, I don't know. God knows the heart of the person. I don't know the heart of the person, but the person's still stupid to taking kicks to the head and taking all that drugs. I don't know. The person probably, is innocent in the sense of they're just very silly. But it's not going to work. Does that make sense? And evolutionary science are some of the dumbest people in our society, but they're a PhD. Not going to work. Telling people that they are the end product of evolution and life is about the survival of the fittest and you have to do life by trying to conquer people and abuse poor people and abuse kids. That ain't going to work. So we have a very clear principle on that. We live a principle, as I say. We don't believe in life without limits. We don't believe in life without governance, and we don't believe in life without guiding principle. Now, as I said that's I guess I always start where I could flush people out, but I'm not intending to flush anybody out. I'm just saying we're not hypocrites. We tell you who we are, and just like somebody would say, you can't judge. Well, you can't judge what I'm saying until you hear me out now. So I'm gonna deal with now this concept here in a very clear way in my mind. Why you can't be a hypocrite. And hypocrites are always going to be chameleons, and so they can't, whatever. And why you can't live a life of a secular person, because it doesn't work. You have to live a life with principle and with laws and rules. In Isaiah chapter 1, verse 9 now, Isaiah chapter 1, verse 9, here we go. Except the Lord of hosts had left unto us a very small remnant, we should have been as Sodom, and we should have been like Gomorrah. So you know the story of Gomorrah. Those two towns and their sister towns, the people around them, they were living life without limits. They were living life where it's just anything goes at any time of the day. And the end result was God had to take care of that because they became rapists and criminality and all kind of stuff. And then they getting captured and they're not to be released. And it's just a terrible life. So somebody could be like, I should be free to do whatever I want to do. Sure, you should be. But you have to understand there's rules to this life and there's results for that life, a lifestyle. Life is best when there's schedule, when there's organization, when there's a time and a place for everything. Life can't be without limits. So when you live your life, if you want to live a successful life, you follow the principle. You make covenants, and they're covenant by sacrifice. Something has to give. You can't live life. You want to live a long, prosperous, happy life, there's a process to it. So how does the Bible describe now how the Sodomite lives? The Bible describes it in Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 48 through 50. Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 48 through 50. As I live, saith the Lord, Sodom thy sister had not done, she nor her daughters, as thou hast done. thou and thy daughters. Behold, this was the iniquity of thy sister Sodom: pride, fullness of bread, the abundance of idleness was in her and in her daughters. Neither did she strengthen the hand of the poor and needy. And they were haughty and committed abomination before me. Therefore I took them away as I saw good. You know, when God took them away, fire and brimstone, they got burnt up. So when he talks about Sodom and thy sisters, he's talking about that Sodom was the main town, and then you have other towns that was smaller towns or cities or villages or whatever that were near them, and they all had the same lifestyle and practices. And so there was a certain culture that had developed in that area. And in that culture was a culture that normally synonymous with homosexuality. But what Ezekiel does, he blows it up a little bit here and tell us that there was a lifestyle that was involved with a wild abandonment. There was no principle or governing principles that were guiding them. And so when sinners tell you that, oh, this lifestyle is so great, you have to really look in an unbiased way, just look in an informational way. And so let's investigate this claim. So this is why I'm here to do with you here. We investigate in the claim. Is the claim that the lifestyle of a prideful person, let's start with that because it says now that iniquity is normally when something is a culture. So something cultural, that means it's just something that everybody does in the culture. It's normal. It's become normalized, you know. And so when you think about somebody saying they're living the best life, normally it's a life of a prideful life. You know, I'm the biggest, baddest guy in town. And so you say, what do you do for a living? I take kicks in the head. Is that a great idea? No, not really. But I can walk around and the people thinking, oh, I'm the baddest. Really? So with Sodom, pride become the first word here. So we notice that when we talk about people who are Sodomites, they're normally very proud of their lifestyle. But we ask yourself, because what is it they're proud of? Then you say, well, that is not shameful. Like anal sex, what is so pride about that? Sex in the anus where you're supposed to defecate. There's nothing prideful about that. But they're pride about it. So this is where the problem is when we talk about just these as a principle. That when you're dealing with just about anything in life that people can be prideful of, you have to analyze it from a objective point of view and say, is that really something to be prideful of? Like I say, if you're taking kicks in your head, is that something to be prideful of? I mean, short term, because you're the person that can give the kicks and take the kicks, and you're the person that is brave enough to take kicks in your head. So you could show off about that. But is that really something to show off about? You know, like say, for instance, if you smoke more weed or take more cocaine than anybody else on the planet, is that long term? Is that something to short term even? I mean, in stupidity, you can like, yeah, and people like, man, this guy here, he knows to handle his liquor. And you say, well, is that good for his kidney and liver? I'd be like, not really, but he really can put down a lot of bottles of alcohol. Like, you know, when they talk about in a society like poor people living in certain neighborhoods, they say they drink a 6-pack every day. Does somebody get up every day and drink a 6-pack? Is that something to be proud about? But people are proud about that type of stuff. But there is, when you see the lifestyle and you see the end result of the lifestyle, there's nothing to be proud about, right? But sinners will sell you because it's part of the culture, something that is very embarrassing, that is something that is destroying them, and their pride about this. I'm sure you've seen people, you're gone past people's yard, and they have the Confederate flag, and you'd be like, why are they so proud of that? That's terrible, right? But people are proud of something because it's part of the culture. It's become normalized. So when we talk about iniquity, we're talking about something that can be viewed in a positive way as something to be celebrated, right? Because it's part of the culture, it's part of the iniquity. And it's become normalized. And the people who are celebrating it, not thinking, man, I'm a disgusting human being. I'm celebrating something that is filth. So this is, as I said, we use Sodom as a principle, not per se to talk about Sodomites, but just to talk about the principle that you can be prideful of something that is not even your best interest. As I say, some of the most prideful people you probably can see on the planet are people who take kicks in the head. And you'll be like, yeah, they're mixed martial artists. It's artists, right? It's a full artist. You see somebody there and they have cauliflower ears. I mean, I went along in life for a while before I found that out. I think I was listening to somebody one day and they talk about it, and I'm like, let's Google what is a cauliflower. I know what cauliflower is, but I know that the ears can become cauliflower. I never even know that. And what happened? The more punches and kick you get on your ears, the ears just looks like cauliflower, and that's a mark that this guy's a fighter. And I'm thinking, I guess in their world, but in my world, I'm thinking that's a mark that you get kicked in your head, because the ears is on the side of the head, so you're getting kicked in the side of your head. That's not positive, but in their mind, that's positive. So when we talk about the iniquity of the daughter of Sodom was pride, that means they're very proud of what they're doing. You'd be like, what can they be proud of that? But they're proud, like, I'm proud. Say it loud. You're like, say what loud? I mean, why? Yeah, we're from the hood. I mean, you come from the hood and you're proud of that? Like, proud that you survive it, or is proud of you? How are you proud of the hood? That should be repented of. Like, you should not brought up there. That the hood is basically a mark that the people believe that they evolve, which is a group of crazy people have oppressed you and keep you in the hood, and then they think because they oppressed you, they think that they're the top of the evolutionary chain. So it's a bunch of confusion. So the fullness of bread, right? So you can see a person, fullness of bread, eat so much bread that they're 3, 4, 5, 600 pounds. I've met people like that. And what is that to be proud of? Like, you eat so much till you eat so much bread, especially nowadays. At least then the bread was whole wheat, I think, right? Now our bread is white flour, and you eat all of that, and you just balloon. And somebody like, I'm proud. I'm like, yeah, you're proud, all right. The abundance of idleness. So it's so much, so you see people and you say, man, they have too much free time on their hand. It's only people with some. You watch some videos. I've watched videos. I'm thinking, I'm idle for watching the video, and this is a bunch of idleness. Was in their hand, and in her daughters. Neither did she strengthen the hand of the poor. Notice, the more idleness, the more drugs, the more these kind of crazy lifestyles, the more homeless people. Show me where there's somebody that proud about six pack, and show me a neighborhood where there's just gonna be people on the side of the street, and show me where they're celebrating drugs, and you're gonna find people on the side of the street. How many people on the side of the street you can see, and that says, this text is their text. There's too much idleness, and too much drugs, and now they're on the side of the street talking to themselves. But when they were there and they were handling their liquor and handling their drugs and handling their STD lifestyle with the sodomite lifestyle, they were proud. But the end result of the pride doesn't work. The end result of the pride is a lifestyle that is not successful. But you watch the lifestyle and you watch people, like I said, the hypocrites are always going to therapy, because you need therapy for that type of hypocrite mindset. You see, it doesn't work. So notice this, and they were haughty and committed abomination before me. Therefore, I took them away as I saw good. So God said, okay, I think it's good to take them away. Let's remove them off the planet. And to this day, God's still taking care of that type of business. So when we talk about a successful lifestyle now comes with certain criteria. So when you think about your life when you were young, growing up, you think about that in this life is about possibilities and probabilities. And you want a probability to be in the side of your children and still up on your side as an adult. So you have to go back and think about life and think about the greater the possibility are there for anyone that go through life in a structured way. But when we become adult, we sometimes want to do life in an unstructured way. So I just want you to think about life like that. And let me lay out this concept for you here. And I'm going to use Matthew 13, verse 1, if you're following, to go there. So notice here, for good results, we need schedule, order, school, church. Oh, I spelled that wrong. We need order, school, church, curriculum, program, organization, sanitation, discipline. I just list those. There's much more I could think about. They'll just give you an idea where I'm going. So think about a child growing up, right? And a child growing up in an environment where all of this is there and more, what makes society work. Because some people will say what you need is to grow up and be successful in life. You need a two-parent home, and that's it. This is what the conservatives, especially from down south, who they seem like they're always in a mess and always in a recession. They tell us that this is all you need. But I'm gonna tell you, this is not what you need per se. Almost of the mindset. I don't believe it's reality. But you could have a parent as a robot that gives you all of this, and you probably will come out better than people with two-parent home and it's a mess. I'm I wouldn't put my money on it, but I wouldn't waste a child life by running the experiment. But I really come to this conclusion where I believe this to be so. This is what I'm saying. Whether it be a single parent home or a uncle or an aunt or a grandmother growing up a person, a child, what a child really needs for the child to be able to function in life is to be able to be trained with certain set of criterias. It could be a two mother and father home. It could be a single parent, as I say, it could be an aunt, uncle, cousin. It could be some friends. The structure of life demands that we come up a certain way. We're being educated when we're young to succeed. The more we have these things in our life, is the more life will work for us when we become an adult. You show me a person who does not prosper in this life and cannot function properly is a person who's not used to certain things. Not necessarily that they need two parents in the home. They need to get used to becoming an adult. Because what is a successful adult? It's not a sodomite adult. That's why I start with them. So, sorry, I don't go with the easier first. I go with the hard first to kind of give you the negative. Now I'll give you the positive. When you're coming up in life and now you're adult, well, what do you need in life for you to succeed? Schedule, order, what you get in school. That's why they show school there, and church, because church is a programming that goes with schedule and order. But somebody said, Lloyd, but I go to churches and it's a mess. I know. But again, the people, well, that's what people I notice poor communities have the most unorganized, unstructured churches. You just go with that. The more ignorance is, the more the church is wild and out of control. So deal with that. You need curriculum. You need an order, like what we studying this year, what we studying next year, what we studying the beginning of the day, next day. What are you doing? You're learning to become an adult. But it starts when you're young. This is what children need. Programming. You need program. What's the program? The program is this, that. There's a order to it. There's a process to it. What do you need? Organization. Because the more organized you're in life, is the better your house is, the better your life is, and the better your life runs smoother. The more time you spend putting stuff in order, is the better it is for success. You cannot do life until things work in a system. We need systems in place. What makes a good country? Systems. And we need to educate the children to become, like, to me, you plan a society not with an architect per se, but with social planning, where it is socially engineered for success. That means from the school level, you start when from the child come out of the womb until the child becomes an adult, and you plan that. The more that's planned, is the better it is. You showed me a society where things are more in order, the parents are more in order, the parents are more like professionals. You show me a society that will produce more stable human beings. Yeah, and as I say, because my environment and where I grew up with all of that. Single parent, two family homes, whatever. But what I notice is that the more discipline and order is in the home life and in the school life and in the society, is that the mind become adapted to what it sees. So if I'm in an environment where people are doing six-pack all day long and they don't prosper, it becomes like, well, that's normal because that's what I see. If I'm in an environment where people are shooting each other and living like there's all these winos and crazy people around, I can adapt to that and I can think that's normal. But if I'm in an environment where, no, that's not normal. Time for school, you go to school. Time for class, you go to class. Time to come home, do schoolwork, you do schoolwork. Time to probably unwind and do something, you unwind and do something. Time to get ready to bed, you go to bed. You go. A child that doesn't have that type of schedule, that's the problem. But a child could be in a two-family home, two-parent home, and doesn't have that, and the child still come out and it's a mess. The probability, because somebody said, well, Lloyd, is that a guarantee? Well, the probability is that you're going to see a higher rate of success from people who go through order and discipline, because life has a sequence to it that works. And that's how life works. So to me, you look at a society that's not prospering and is very poor, and you look at a society that the system does not work. You know, I was watching a video a few weeks ago when they had a coup in Niger or Niger. I don't know how you say that word. And I don't know if it's pronounced different, if it's French or whatever. But I think it's a French colony and oppressed by the French people. So if you look at a country like that, you say, okay, why is it, you know, when I check the list of 180 something or 90 countries on the planet, and it is, I think, 180 or 80 something when it comes on to poverty. So the question is, why is it so poor? Is it because it lacks resources, or it does not, it has resources, but it's not getting all of that from the resources? And my answer to that is no when I look at the documentation. What I realized real quickly is that that country is messed up because it don't even have a functional educational system. So how can the gross domestic product, which is all the people together and how much they make, be anything but, I think it's 500 or 600, or I don't even think it's $800 per year, when there's no functional school? Somebody say, oh no, what they need is more military. Sure, if you're trying to oppress them and you're part of the American military industrial complex, or the French or the Russian military industrial complex, sure, they want more guns. That's what they need. But that's not what they need. What they need is education, and they need a system and order. So when we talk about church now, to me, when I read the Bible, I read about order and discipline. When I read that a society falls apart, it's because there's no laws, rules, order, discipline, nothing like that. So again, for good results, we need schedule, order, as adults still. School, church, curriculum, program, organization, sanitation, discipline. Just throwing some stuff there. There's more I could say there to make a good society and a good human being. And if your society is not doing that, if you do that and you do that for your family, you will have a very successful, you have a higher probability that you'll have success. The possibility, when I say success, the children will have success. Because the possibility for them to succeed, they already know already how to succeed in society without even you ever telling them. You don't never have to say this to them. You just taught them time to go to school, time to do your school, time to do this, time to do that, time for downtime, time to take a break. What do you teach them? You know, like somebody say, well, church. Why church? Because you have to stop. And you have to feed the mind. The mind has to be fed. Just like you have to feed the mind, math, English, chemistry, all that stuff. So there is a process to life that really works if you understand what it is. And it circumnavigate or overcome all of these crazy arguments that people put out there. So notice here in Matthew chapter 13, verse 1 through 8, we notice here the sequence to life and how life worked. The same day went Jesus out of the house and sat by the seaside. So it's by the sea. So you can imagine. Well, we're not going to paint that picture. I don't paint a lot of pictures. And great multitudes were gathered together unto him, so that he went into a ship and sat, and the whole multitude stood on the shore. So that I can paint the picture. So you can imagine there's so much people there, and so he goes out into the ship, and then now the amphitheater become the beach, and they're there, and they're on the shore. They're standing, and he's on a ship, so he's on an elevated platform. So that's easy to see. Love the beach. And he spake many things unto them in parables, saying, behold, a sower went forth to sow. So a farmer went and put some seed in the ground, lots of seed. And when he had sowed, some seed fell by the wayside, and the fowls came and devoured them. So just imagine a child growing up now, and the child is growing up in the hood. Child in the middle of the day, child is not at school, blah blah blah. The child is not even, then there's no planting, they're not in an environment where the seed can grow. Could the child come out and grow? Yeah. But your probability now is reversed, where you probably have the seed that fell in the good ground has a much better chance of coming up and growing and keep flourishing. It's a higher probability that a child that grew up in a certain environment, no education, no this, no that, no that, to come out and fail at life, end up in prison, end up in juvenile detention. That's a fact. Somebody will say, well, that's, you don't know the heart of the person. Some people crazy saying these crazy things. I don't know where they get these crazy things from. Listen, this is just a fact of life. There's a reason why oppressors always choose to keep a society that's being oppressed uneducated, because they know a mind is a terrible thing to waste. And so that's just a fact. If it wasn't so important for somebody to oppress another people by keeping them uneducated, they wouldn't do it. They do it because it works. So here, the fowls of the heaven and stuff like can pick off that ignorant person because they don't know. They didn't grow in a great environment. It's just a fact that says in a stable home environment and educational environment, you have a greater opportunity for somebody to succeed. Notice here, and when he sowed, some seed fell by the wayside, and the fowls came and devoured them. And then some fell upon stony place where they had not much earth, and forthwith they sprung up because they had no deepness of earth. So you show me again, show me an environment where you want to be able to succeed and the environment is not there for you to succeed. You will not succeed. Because long term, you might get some results, but long term, it's not made for success. So I'll give you an example here. So say I made the example of the artists and the people who are doing the lifestyle where it's long term it won't work. It sounds good on the short term, but long term it doesn't work. They're not gonna have a long run. As I say, how much kick you can get in your head and body shots to your liver and kidney, that's not gonna affect you long term. But in your 20s, you can take that. 30s might be a little bit. 40s, you're done. Long term, it doesn't work. That's why sinners want to sell you that says certain things work, but it doesn't work long term. It works for young people, right? But somebody, young whippersnapper, they can seem like, but it's not going to work. It's going to grind them down sooner or later. So that's to me is like there's no deepness because you can spring up, but it's just not going to work. But somebody could say, but I can live a great life in my 20s. Yeah, sure. But you don't have no long run. The lawyer that went to school and get the education and stable is going to rip you off all day long with your contracts because your brain is mush. You have talent, but you have no brain. Long term, it doesn't work. That's why most people don't succeed in that environment long term, that are vapid. Just doesn't work. I remember I was reading something from a person who was an artist, and he says, in order for you to be an artist and succeed, you have to be a businessman. And you just think about it. Oh, yeah, I remember I was reading an article a few weeks back when this guy, I saw it on the headline, died, and his name was Jimmy Buffett, and he's the one that did Margaritaville. So I was reading the article, and he said, and they quoted him saying that, like, why did he do so much business? And he said, because he can't survive as an artist unless you're a business person. And I was thinking, that's fascinating, because you see, that's an intelligent person right there. So he's using the fame and the money from the singing that's not going to last for long, and it's a wasteful lifestyle anyhow. And he's used to do business to keep him going, and it kept him going. He became very rich. So I started up like, yeah, I hear about this guy because a lot of the time you go to anywhere that there's an airport or some major tourist site, you have a Margaritaville somewhere there. And at first I didn't know. I heard the music when I was young, but I didn't know who sang it. But I was like, okay, this is the guy. Longevity is the thing with this life. And so to make a person go long, you have to have discipline, you have to have order. But there's certain behaviors and activity that people do that you could be the biggest cat on the block and you take all that steroids. That's not long term. You're going to damage yourself. You have to be able to figure out another way to be able to maintain that size if you can naturally. That thing gonna make you sterile. I was watching somebody and they were taking all that drugs and they became humongous, but they were sterile. They couldn't impregnate their wife. It was just they had to get off the drugs and start doing natural and start doing things to get the testosterone back up. They were, but they looked strong, but they literally was weak. At least the Sarah child. So notice here. So some things don't work, but it could spring up, and somebody could say, "Lord, but it spring up." Yeah, that's a fool's game. So notice here, and when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. So basically, under pressure, certain things fall apart. But when you're young, you don't really understand that, so you remain foolish. So that's why I say when you do life where the child first is taught order, discipline, and they have structure, and they know to function in that structure and succeed in that structure, they can run long and they can survive long. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprung up and choked them. And so again, same thing. You can't be certain environments is not conducive for growth and for success. This is what to me they fell among thorns, and they sprang up, but they get choked. If you want to be successful, you have to be in a certain environment for success. If you want to be where people do it longevity, you got to do it the way it works. And there's certain processes that work. There's a reason why certain people are trying to make it in this life as they get adult. They watch people who are trying to progress and prosper. They read books about people who want to progress and prosper. They sort of take on certain disciplines like maintaining their health, maintaining the diet, exercising, being a person who watch videos, read books, go to seminars. They're doing everything to make it more possible that they can grow and flourish. But a person who never understand this discipline when they're young and refuse to get this type of discipline when they're older, they don't prosper. So the lifestyle that we're living is a complete lifestyle. What I say is a lifestyle that is marked by the word covenant and sacrifice. We're committing to a certain way that will make us have the best possible outcome, the probability we want to put in our favor. But when we do life in a way that most people don't survive, somebody might say, well, we might survive, but we will be one of the very few. But long term, nobody survive who do life a certain way. So we don't go in a certain lifestyle. Our lifestyle is marked with discipline. Mark chapter 4, so verse 8 says, but others fell in good ground and brought forth fruit, some 100, some 60, and some 30. We, in everything you do in life, we want to put ourselves in the best possible position and to increase our probability of success. Does that mean that, as I say, a meteorite couldn't fall and hit you and kill you today? No, I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying that if life continues and they just work, life works in the regular way it works, then you have long-term possibilities. How many people you have known, I know, that it wasn't going to work long-term. And I can say that definitively because I've lived long enough to see that it was going to work long-term. So it don't matter what we're dealing with education, we're dealing with career, we're dealing with your activities in life. Don't put yourself in life where you're doing things that long-term it won't work because you're going to increase your chance of ending up on a trash heap of life that the people that have gone before us, that have ended up on a trash heap of life. As I say, if you want to be successful in life, you do what you know other people. You watch other people, what they do, success. Now, somebody say, well, okay, why will you read about this famous person here, this famous person that did something different? Because I'm trying to eat the watermelon and spit out the seed. I'm just trying to learn what was the key, what they do when they do something that say, oh, they did something different and they get the long-term results. Does that make sense? You're just trying to learn the keys to success. And when you realize they have certain ingredients in them that always work. But when you watch sinners selling a certain lifestyle, that don't work. As I say, the sodomite lifestyle never work and never will. It is too risky. It's come with too much disease and it's not humble. Humility is how you do life. You humbly go through life. You observe. You're a learner. You always can learn. Prideful people can't learn from nobody because nobody can talk to them. Mark chapter 4, verse 26 through 29. Mark 4, verse 26 through 29 says, and he said, so is the kingdom of God, as if a man should cast seed into the ground and should sleep and rise day and night, and the seed should spring and grow. He know it not how. It's true. Some of these things happen, and you're like, where does this come about? How did it come about? You really don't know, but there's a process to it. What's the process? There's ground, and there's seed, and you need time, but the results come. cast a seed in the ground. So what was that important for you? You got to put something in. Come on now. You got to put something in. You can't live your life on just fumes. You got to put something in. If you want to go somewhere and you have a car, don't you put some gas in there? Don't you put some maintenance in the car? Well, life works like that in every aspect of life. There's a process to life. The order to life works, the discipline to life works. As I say, our lives are covenants with sacrifice. We have to put some sacrifice in there. We have to put some work in there. What type of work? Works that work. You do the works that work. And for the earth bringeth forth fruit of herself, first the blade, then the ear, after that the full corn in the ear. But when the fruit is brought forth, immediately put in the sickle, because the harvest is come. So he says there's a process. Christ is saying here there's a process to life. The man, the sower, the farmer goes in, he put in the seed. He's not putting the seed in pavement. He's putting the seed where is a possibility, the probability and possibility is high that there will be growth. He doesn't understand. I still don't understand. Science don't understand. Don't let them fool you. They really don't understand how this thing happened. They can tell you the process and what happened next and what happened next. Because that's what Christ is saying here. But the full genetical and biological, what's going on, nobody knows really, but we understand it works. So what is he saying? You do the process that works and you put the seed into the area or the soil where you know the probability or possibility will work. Could the seed not grow? Yes, but if you put in 100 seeds in good ground, it will bring forth. I say it here where Christ says it. He says here, then he says, he rise day and night and he spring up. And then he says, first the blade, come out, then the ear, and after that the full head of corn. I'm amazed at how life works like this. I had a ginger plant. I had more than one, but one of them died on me, right? Because I'm trying to do something to kill something that was in the soil and end up killing the plant. I think. No, I left it there and I'm like, man, I lost this ginger plant. It cost me money. I had to get it shipped from California and all that. Anyhow, so regrettably so, I thought I lost the ginger plant. Last week, I went to go look at the other ginger plant and it's still alive. And I noticed the other plant that I thought was died sprung forth, came back. And I was like, this is amazing. I thought it was dead. But the root was still in the soil and it didn't die. It sprang out. And I was amazed. That's a side note. My ginger plant is alive. And so I'm have to go care for it. So it spring forth. I don't understand the process. But when I cut off one of the ginger, I don't know if it's a limb or whatever it is. I don't know what ginger push up. It's not a tree, you know, it grows up in all different type of sprouts. And I smell it and it smells like ginger, Zanzibar, something. And I'm like, fascinating. So anyhow, side note. So when you look at that, the process works, but when you want to do life, you do life a certain way that works long term. That's my point here for today. And we do life with the sacrifice because you're putting in the sacrifice because this farmer could eat all the grain, but he put aside some and he takes it and put it in the soil that it has the highest probability of growing and then it gets results. When you're doing life a certain way, what you're doing is you want to put yourself and everything you do in the highest probability that you can get results. There's a cadence to life. There's a process to life. You don't know how the results sometimes come, but one day it just grows and things happen. But you put in. There's more I can say there. I'm going to say more tomorrow on that. In Matthew chapter 7, almost there, Matthew chapter 7, verse 13, onward, it says, enter in at the straight gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Because straight is the gate and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. Beware of false prophets which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. Ye shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns and figs of thistle? Let me tell you something. There's something about Christ's teaching that always fascinated me in this linear, in his thinking. His thinking teach you different from the preachers. So preachers tell you not to judge and not to believe this and not to believe that. Christ teaches very differently. Christ says, listen, I'm going to explain this to you. You won't go to a snake and expect him not to bite you. He didn't say that there, but that's what I mean. That's what I get from what he's saying. Snakes bite. I know people will say, oh, no, Lord, that's judging. You're judging the snake. You see, Christ teach very linear. It's very simple. You want good results, you do good. If this is the way the results come. You want a child to be successful, teach a child scheduling. Teach a child order, discipline, and you almost guarantee the child. Listen, the child could stop going to school right now. I don't know why they would, because they have order and discipline, but you don't get the point. And they still be successful. Why? Because they're going to show up. They know to show up on time. They know to put in their work. They know when it's time to take a break, when it's time not to take a break. You get my point. Get my drift. So what is Christ teaching you again? Even that 17 says, so even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. You know how many people I know would argue against this text and say, oh, no, that's judgmental. You think Jesus is judgmental? Jesus is telling you can't go to a corrupt pastor and expect good from him. You can't go to a corrupt preacher and expect good from him. If the man is corrupt in his lifestyle, his teaching is garbage. People are like, what are you talking about? This is life. There's certain things you do in life that get good results. As I say, show me how many boxers and people like MMA artists and stuff that have cauliflower ears and they can't they talk with a slur, like as if they're permanently drunk, or they're literally shaking and stuff like that, because they're taking a lot of body blows and kicks to the head. There's just a certain result. But people have a problem with this. And I said, why you have a problem with this? That lifestyle doesn't work. You take crack and cocaine, you're going to end up a certain way. How many people you see on the side of the street mumbling to themselves? It's because of drugs. But people argue against that, but you don't know what's in their heart. I don't know what's in their heart, but I'll tell you that's the result of the lifestyle. Verse 18 says, a good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit. Cannot. I don't care what nobody tell me. Neither is a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Cannot. Again, you go to a coconut and it will give you a coconut. You want ginger, you go to a ginger plant. People are like, oh, no, you don't know. A maple tree could produce ginger. People crazy like that. If you want good results in life, you do the things that are going to give you the good results, and you get the good results. Every tree that bring forth not good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. That's what happened to the Sodomites and everybody that lived that lifestyle. Pure disease. Don't work. Wherefore, by their fruits you shall know them. So Christ is saying, you're not going to know the false prophets unless you look at their fruit. If you look at their fruit, and they're telling people to drink, what do you call it, Kool-Aid, it never works. It's just the person's life is corrupt. They're not. Somebody say, oh, but the preaching is so good. You silly. I don't care how their preaching is good. If they live in a corrupt life, I don't care. It could sound like Satan. I hear he has a silver tongue. It's just not good. It's Satan still. But people eat that stuff all this long. So we don't follow sinners telling us that their lifestyle is so good. Follow people taking all these drugs and alcohol. Follow people hateful and swinging around Confederate flag. It's a dirty, nasty person. What are you telling me? And but he what? He hateful. Like, what are you telling me? People hate people, and oh yeah, but he's a good Christian. How can you be a good Christian? Like you have that type of flag, you're Satanist. But people believe, and then they get hoodwinked and bamboozled, and the kids get raped, sodomized by these pedophiles that with these Confederate flags, and you'd be like, well, you're shocked. That person is nasty. See, so it doesn't matter. What we do, we follow right principles because we want to follow the right way, the right path, and we follow him who is our Savior. So notice here in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 25 says, and every man that striveth for the mastery is temperate in all things. We have no undisciplined, uncontrolled belief that you can do that and then succeed. Now, they do it to obtain a corruptible crown, but we are incorruptible crown. So we discipline our bodies and our lives and everything so we get good results, because that's how good results come. You do good, you do good principles and practices, you get good results. You do bad principles and practices, you get bad results. That's just a fact. Galatians 2 verse 20 says, I'm crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God, which loved me and gave himself for me. Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, I thank you, dear Lord, for your word. And I pray that, Lord, you will bless myself and those that are listening, that truly we may choose the right way and the right path that will give us the good results, that are known results. May you bless us, we pray, towards this end, for Christ's sake. Amen. Thanks for being with me here on Revive Reform Radio. Looking forward to talking to you again live tomorrow, where we should talk about natural health. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.